I think in terms of evaluating potential investments, really it starts with as we are, venture capitalists and looking for a business opportunity, looking at the unit economics. I think that's always a good place to start on. Asking the question, does each transaction bring value to different parties and hopefully the company as well? And so in the case of, let's use Flash Food, for example, when we investigate and looking at each transaction, there's a value for the retailer side and that you're reducing shrink in just on the P&L. And I think while they care a lot about food waste, they care about the bottom line the most. And so wanting to see we're actually saving the retailer money, you're saving the consumer money on that side, given the markdowns and kind of clear pricing differential that they're getting and saving value at. And then finally, I think back to some of Dana's points earlier, where we saw that a lot of that food waste was going towards landfill, and it wasn't as much as we wish more was going towards donation and other better sources. A lot of it was ending up in landfill. And so you have to look at that. There's really an environmental impact there as well. So those three key, sort of in that unit economics and transaction, looking is that all reasonable? And finally, as well, for the company, can they make some sort of, at least, we're not looking for necessarily outsized profits, but enough. I think about sustainability in the company sense as well. Do they have enough funding and profits to keep themselves going and to keep growing? Because I think that's the ultimate best impact you can have when you have something like this. Both the business goals and the impact goals align, where it's saving money, but it's also having that impact. And that's sort of the perfect combination that you would look for in the business case of, it isn't just, hopefully for at least venture capitalists, isn't just the impact side, but there's that business side as well. The final thing, I think I'd mention around as I sort of alluded to in VC, and how we have those high expectations around scaling and becoming something much larger. That ability to scale and looking at, again, for example, with Flash Food, there's a marketplace dynamic there where you're looking for those network effects that if you add more shoppers and if you add more retailers on both sides, it benefits both sides. And so that's a sort of classic network effect that we understand, that we know that enables scale. And ultimately, I think as VCs, generally speaking, and the exits are, it's often sort of said when you look at the portfolio that half of the companies will ultimately fail. You're looking for that home run or that 10x to help make up for those values in the portfolio. So we do have to swing for the fences for a bit. I think that's very true in tech, and where you're looking at, you typically looked at where the IPO type of exits had returned a lot of investor capital and made returns there. In food and ag, there hasn't been as many IPO exits. We can name kind of sort of probably on one hand a few over the last couple of years. But we saw the success with Beyond Meat and some of the early plant-based side there as well. And I think that is more of a rarity than in most commonly in food and ag, we're looking for those M&A type of exits. And so we are often underwriting towards, if it's a CPG like company, can you have sort of still a reasonable exit in terms of multiples that acquirers would buy. And it's often looking at the history of comps then of where those have traded in the space.